Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, The Truth Matters. Thank you so much for watching today, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone as I get back home with you in the afternoon. It's so much fun to be with you. Continue sending emails, Donna@Donna'sEdge.com. That's Donna@Donna'sEdge.com. You can find us on television syndicated on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can also find the podcast on thenewscasters.com. Continue finding us on all the social media sites as well. So, again, continue sending those emails. They sure do make my day. And I got one for you. So one of you said, send an email saying, Donna, I heard you were left-handed. I'm left-handed too. The whole world discriminates against me. And so I sent a response back and I said, what is your age? Said she was 22. Well, I'm 66. So to me, we just kind of had to run with those bumps in the road and to make things happen in my day. However, there really is a bumpy road. When you think about being left-handed, when you're in school, okay, so, the little spiral books that you would have, little notebooks, and you would take notes in class. Well, everybody else kind of had it made because those little wire spiral things were not on that side. Well, on my side, there they were. So I always had these little crimps right here from handwriting and when I would take notes in class. But something, it's okay. You can learn to live with things like that. But there are also some really, really wonderful advantages to being left-handed. And we're going to talk about some of those in just a few minutes. But before we get to that, scientific findings about folks who are left-handed. Let's look at this really short video. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Every day in her Brisbane studio, Dee Gillette Cox creates breathtaking works of art by doing something she would never have dared to do as a child, using her left hand.
When I was a wee girl in primary school, it was apparently a heinous, hideous, evil thing to be left-handed. So what they would do when I was caught using my left hand to write or the like, I'm 5. What was I doing? Drawing things? I don't know. But I would have to stand on top of my desk and then they would beat the back of my legs with a wooden ruler to punish me. I remember bleeding from being hit so hard, and I remember the humiliation. And I was 5, so I super remember being scared that I'd pee my pants while I was standing on that desk being smacked. It was horrible. It was truly traumatisingly horrible.
It's hard to believe today, but until about 50 years ago, this sort of treatment was common for left-handers all over the world. As far back as the Stone Age, lefties have only made up about 10% of the population, which means throughout history, this trait has been considered bad luck at best and just plain wicked at worst.
I research a lot about art. I did discover that Eve, as in Adam and Eve, is historically portrayed as having 2 left hands because having one regular left hand didn't make the woman evil enough. That was shocking to discover that.
It turns out that you can't tell whether someone's good or evil by looking at which hand they favour. But genetic epidemiologist Professor David Evans says there's a lot we can learn from studying this trait.
Whether you're right or left-handed is correlated with what's going on in the brain. So, for example, people who are right-handers are much more likely to be very lateralized in terms of their brain function and have their language centers in the left hemisphere. Whereas individuals who are left-handed, it's more likely that they have less lateralization and you have language in both hemispheres rather than just the left. If we've got a good understanding of laterality in the brain, then this has implications for developing treatments in the case of stroke, epilepsy, or trauma, where you've got damage to a particular part of the brain.
In 2020, Professor Evans and his colleagues at the University of Queensland collaborated with the QIMR, Berghofer Medical Research Institute, to conduct the largest study to date into the genetic factors that determine handedness.
We found 41 genes which were associated with being a left-hander and 7 genes that were associated with being ambidextrous. So the reason why that's significant is that nobody knows what causes left-handedness. So if we can find genes that are involved in somehow determining whether someone is left-handed or not, that provides us with clues as to the underlying biology of why people become left-handers.
But it turns out genetics are only a tiny piece of the puzzle.
Handedness is a really unusual trait in that it's mostly determined by the environment. So normally when you look at traits like height or various diseases, normally it's kind of around about 50% genetic and 50% environmental, but handedness is really unusual in that it's predominantly due to environmental factors.
Just what those environmental factors are remains unclear. But as Sydney-based lefty Steve McWork will tell you, there's no question we live in a right-hander's world.
Back when our youngest daughter, who's left-handed, was 7, she decided one night she wanted to feed the dog. And we went to open the can of dog food, and she struggled with the right hand, the standard can opener, the only can opener we had, and we ended up having major tantrums. And of course the dog had to be fed by somebody else.
Steve's fruitless search for a left-handed can opener inspired him to start up his online business, Lefties, Australia's only retailer of left-handed products.
So the most popular product group that we have is scissors. When we use a pair of scissors, we are pushing with the thumb and pulling with the fingers. And what that does is it moves on the pivot to cause the blades to actually rub against each other and cut the piece of paper. If you're using the wrong scissors in those hands, then it causes the blades to splay apart and they don't cut.
Since starting up in 2003, Steve's little family business has grown to stock over 300 products, including left-handed veggie peelers, garden tools and measuring jugs. But he reckons most right-handers would be surprised at just how many other everyday items aren't left-hand friendly.
Well, where do you start? The turnstiles at the train station, you know, when you put your Opal card, that's the right hand. The microwave oven, the EFTPOS machine, if you're swiping your card, the swipe slot is on the right-hand side of the keypad. Chainsaws and circular saws, the whippersnipper and the lawnmower, the zip pull on those, power drills, all those sorts of things, they're all set just for the right-hander.
Despite the many little challenges, Steve couldn't be prouder to be part of this exclusive club. After all, he's in pretty good company.
1 out of 4 astronauts was left-handed, so, you know, double the normal population. We have, perfect role models for us of examples of creativity, like, you know, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo. 6 of the last 8 US presidents were all left-handed. As a group, we're adaptable, whether it be through necessity or ability, and that lends us to be able to work with whatever comes our way.
I wish I could get those old teachers who beat me for being left-handed, my sewing teacher who would look at my work that had 4 dodgy right-hand stitches from when she was watching me and 7 good left-handed ones for when her vision was elsewhere. All of them, I'd like to line them all up and go, right, everybody, excuse me, do you see what the hand does now?
Yes, I definitely feel her pain. Absolutely. And I know a lot of you out there do too. But you know what? We're also easily adaptable. So that makes life a little bit easier as well. On psychologytoday.com, I found another really good article. And it says 8 new scientific findings about left-handedness. So let's go ahead and talk about that. And if you're married to a left-hander, you need to watch this as well. Okay, so while the reasons for left-handedness still remain a mystery, neuroscientists worked hard to understand this fascinating phenomenon. So here are some real scientific findings about left-handedness that you may not have heard of yet. So there are approximately 708 million left-handers in the world. We can have our own little club. We can have all those great things. Okay, now, and also, I don't know if there's a club about this or not. I'm going to see if I can find one locally. I'm going to join it. Now, in a recent integration of 200 studies on folks who are left-handed, with an overall sample size of more than 2.3 million individuals, the author of this article says, we found that the percentage of the left-handed is about 9.2%. As there are about 7.7 billion people living in the world. This was conducted back in 2019. It can be estimated that there are about 708,400,000 left-handers. Sometimes, by the way, you find we get our numbers. You just saw me do that. Now, men are more likely to be left-handers than women are. So an analysis of 144 studies on folks who are left-handed, total sample size was 1,787,629 folks. Those individual participants showed a 2% increase of left-handedness in men compared to women. Now, the reason for this are not well understood, but hormonal or maybe societal factors might play a role in that. Something else I found pretty interesting too is that dogs and cats can be left-handed. Didn't know that. Never had a pet that I noticed that was left-handed. Maybe you need to pay more attention. I'll check with the bees each one and see what they do. Did you know that humans not only are the only species that shows left-handedness? In a recent meta-analysis, this is a statistical integration of many different scientist studies. They're all together on this. Of paw preferences in cats and dogs, they could show that about 36% to 46% of cats were left-pawed. In dogs, 31 versus 53% were lefties. Dogs and cats. Okay, this shows that the development of left-handedness is not something that is typical just for humans, but can be observed in other species too. However, the low percentage of left-handers, about 10% in humans, seem to be specific for us, as this rate is typically higher than non-human animals. This is what I wonder. Because as a kid growing up, of course, I was left-handed. And so sometimes mother would take the crayon out of my left hand and put it in my right hand. I never caught on. Dad finally said, leave her alone. She's left-handed. Don't worry about it anymore. There's no reason to worry. And some kids, though, did turn from left-handed to right-handed because of that. So I think that percentage is much, much higher than 10%, but who knows? Okay, let's look at number 4, and then we'll go into a commercial break. Left-handers often win at sports since their actions are more surprising to their opponents. I think that's the gig because I remember playing baseball, neighborhood full of boys, no girls, and so I would play baseball with the boys. And so some of the guys never caught on that I was left-handed, so what I would do is I would put the bat in my right hand and act as if I were going to hit the ball. Dad taught me to do that. So what I did is right at the last minute, I would switch it back around to my left hand, and then I'd hit. So they weren't expecting me to be left-handed. So it wasn't that I was that great a batter. It's just the surprise element when you would take it away from the right hand to the left hand. So it was really surprising. They never knew what I was going to do. So did you know that left-handers are more often successful at sports than right-handers? This is especially true for interactive ball sports and interactive combat sports. For example, a study from 2019 investigated the effects of left-handedness on performance in a world-class water polo players. The results, the left-handed male players performed more shots overall, more shots per minute, and most importantly, scored more goals than the right-handed players. It's the thought that this effect is due to the fact that opponents expect, say just like I told you I did, they expect a throw or a hit with the right hand and are surprised if someone uses the left hand. Similar effects are also been shown in boxing and fencing and, of course, in the sport of baseball. Let's cut into a commercial break and we shall return in just a few minutes.
Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. Or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain-fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. You can find us on syndicated television. That's the content television found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. Continue watching us on YouTube. We've got our own YouTube channel there as well as Facebook. You're all over the place. So if it's social media, we are probably doing it. We're talking about the world of the left-handers. Now, if you're married or your partner is a left-handed person, you might want to watch this too, so you can kind of better understand us and why we do some of the things we do. Now, number 5 says genes play a role for left-handedness. This is and you can find this on the internet at psychologytoday.com. psychologytoday.com. So let's find out what they're talking about. So in 2019, scientists from an institute, the Max Planck Institute in the Netherlands, conducted the biggest study on the genetics of left-handedness so far. They found that a small number of genes play a role in the development of left-handedness. Among them, MAP2, that's the microtubule-associated protein 2, a gene that is crucial for the development of nerve cells in the brain. And if this topic interests you, you can find it. Now, this is why I want you to look at the website, because there is a blog post on left-handedness that you can click. psychologytoday.com. I find it interesting because I actually have a cousin on dad's side of the family, and he's firstborn like I was, and so he's also left-handed. And then I think a couple more people, a couple of aunts, uncles, were left-handed as well. But it did not really run rampant in the family, but it did have some association of the family. Now, number 6, different early life factors influence left-handedness. But genes are not the whole story. So another Dutch study, and this is from a 2019, showed that different early life factors also influence whether we become left-handed or a right-hander. Now, these factors include the year and location of birth, suggesting that cultural effects might play a role, like your societies change their attitudes towards left-handers. Yeah, there was a time back in the old countries that you were considered, and some places thought you were maybe an evil. They thought you were a witch. They thought you were a warlock, all these weird stuff, handed. I'm glad we don't live in that world right now. Moreover, left-handedness was influenced by birth weight, being part of the multiple births, season of birth, breastfeeding, and sex. So if you want to know more about those factors, you can also find that in the blog post on psychologytoday.com, psychologytoday.com. Now, number 7 tells us that at 3 years of age, handedness is determined in most, but not all children. So I asked my parents about that one. When did you first find out I was left-handed? And so both remembered me falling down. When I would fall down, I would reach my left hand first instead of my right hand. Because you're trying to walk, kids are always going to fall. But they did notice that. They also noticed I would pick up toys with my left hand before I did my right hand. And this is before I was 2 years old. So, I guess it just happens different times in your life. Okay, we've still got good time. Okay, now at 3 years of age, a study using the home-handedness questionnaire, this is HHQ in preschoolers, 3 years of age, found that most of the children were right-handed. Now, this was also a Nielsen study in 2019. However, about 25% of the children showed different handedness for tasks that were performed with one or both hands. This indicates that of these children at 3 years of age, hand use patterns might still undergo development. There'll be a possibility for something else. Did you know that there is also left-footedness? I didn't. I need to pay attention to that. Okay, so using our hands is not the only form of motor extremity that humans show. There's also footedness. Now, the preference to use the left foot or the right foot for kicking a ball or grabbing something with your toes. This is an especially important feature in soccer players. Wow, I didn't know that. But something? I believe kicking the football, I've always kicked with the right foot. Yeah, it's natural right foot. So I'm left-handed, but right-footed. Okay. Footedness and handedness are related to most people, but not every left-hander is also a left footer. I'm not. Moreover, there are also left kissers, if you want to know more, and left huggers.
If you want to know more, there's a blog post about that as well. Let's click on it. I want to find out about kissers. Okay, so there are left kissers. Do you kiss right? Exploring side preferences in kissing. Let's see what that means. When we kiss someone on the lips, we usually turn our heads either to the left side or to the right side in order to prevent bumping noses with our partner. Interestingly, the side to which we turn our heads is anything but random, so most people turn their heads to the same side every time they kiss. Try to remember the last time you kissed someone, did you turn your head to the left or to the right? To the right. Okay, so the chances are high that you probably turned your head to that side when kissing, so the next time you kiss, try a little experiment. So instead of turning your head to the usual side, try turning it to your non-favored side and find out how that feels. Okay, the experience is, of course, highly individual. Most people would say it felt awkward, weird, or even simply wrong. Okay, so the head turning preference during kissing is been investigated in a number of scientific studies. First was from a 2003 study in Germany, where the researcher observed kissing couples in public places, such as international airports, large railway stations, beaches, and parks in the United States, Germany, and in Turkey. The result? Most of us are right kissers. Okay, that way it's not awkward. Okay, so overall, 64.5% of couples turn their heads to the right, and 35.5% turn their head to the left. Now, this roughly is a 2.1 ratio, which is also observed in kissing studies in different cultures. Okay, important. This is kind of interesting here, don't you think? Okay, so importantly, it takes two people to kiss, of course. But what happens when two people want to kiss to have opposing head-turning preferences? It's been shown that social pressure can lead to an alignment of head-turning preferences during kissing in such situations. Now, a French study, the French kiss, tested whether social pressure could affect the head-turning preference by observing kissing on the cheek as a greeting in 10 French cities. You know, some folks have that culture. For their observations, the researchers chose locations where people frequently met and greeted each other, such as entrances at universities, restaurants, at lunchtime, maybe the fountain of the main square in the evening. Now, they observed more than 5,000 kisses with individuals using one to three kissings at a greeting. Now, the researchers found then an interesting result. So in each city, the large majority of individuals started to kiss on the same side. But this side was not the same for all cities. Now, in 7 cities, throughout Germany, people started with kissing the left cheek of the person, turning their own head to the right. However, in 3 cities, they started to kiss the right cheek, turning their own head to the left. This shows that people tend to align their kissing preferentially with the majority of the people with whom they interact with. Presumably to avoid an awkward situation like bumping noses. Yeah, that would be kind of awkward. Unless you want to do the Eskimo kiss, then you'd have that going. Now, while this has been investigated for romantic kisses between couples, it is conceivable that one partner might align their kissing preference based on the social pressure to avoid awkward situations with the partner. Yeah. Now, so why do we prefer to turn our heads to one side during kissing? I just never really thought about that, but it's interesting. The answer might be somewhat surprising because the head turning during kissing is not the only one that we show. In fact, head turning can be already observed at an early age, maybe right after birth. I mean, who kisses you all the time? Your grandparents, you know, they're always kissing on you. In fact, when a baby is placed on his or her mother's belly, most show a consistent preference to turn their head to one side. In a recent study, it was shown that about 77% of babies have a right turn preference. 18% have left turn preference, and 4% show no preference. The head turning preference during kissing might be an evolutionary remnant of this very early head turning preference. Wow, pretty interesting, huh? So you can kind of see how us left-handed folks kind of tick.
there's some help needs to be done there. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show. You can find us on television, channel 182 Charter Communications. Also, you may find us on television syndicated, Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget to watch us on all the social media sites. And also, you can find us on our podcast on thenewscasterstudio.com. Again, thank you so much for watching.